Hello, this is Kirill and welcome back to the course on Tableau. In today's tutorial, we will learn how to navigate Tableau and we'll get to play around with the tool. So here you can see where we left off last time. We had just connected to our office supplies.csv data source. So let's move on to the Tableau workspace. Here you can see at the bottom a tab called Sheet 1. Let's click on that. And right away we're presented with the Tableau working area. And it may seem a bit overwhelming at first, but that's exactly why in the previous section we had this quick agile run through where we very rapidly created a map, and it was quite intuitive, wasn't it? So that's exactly what we'll talk about today, how easy it is to navigate this workspace in front of us. So the two main areas here are the data connection on the left, or the data tab on the left, and the working area on the right. So this is where you will be creating things, masterpieces. So let's talk about the data tab on the left first. The data is always broken down into two sections, dimensions and measures. And there's a very distinct difference between them, and it's important to understand it. So dimensions and measures are roles, two different roles that any data element can take. And normally what Tableau does is into measures it puts any kind of numerical values, and into dimensions it puts all the categorical and kind of qualitative data. So that's the default setting for Tableau, and you're easily able to drag them around. So if you're not happy with something being a measure, you can put it into dimensions like that, for instance, as easy as that. But we won't do that right now, so I just click Ctrl-Z there to undo an action. That's the standard Windows key to cancel something. So the other way to think about dimensions and measures is dimensions are independent variables and measures are dependent variables. So for instance, we have units, so how many units of a certain item were sold. And here we have region, so we can find out how many units in each region were sold. So region will be the independent variable and units will be the dependent variable because it will be grouped by region. And based on that definition, which is the correct definition, things might you might require to move things around from dimensions into measures and measures to dimensions. But we won't focus on that right now because Tableau usually guesses it quite correctly. Okay, so what do we have here as well? At the top we've got the normal ribbon for Windows. So file, basically you can save your file, open a new file. Data, you can connect to new data sources here. Worksheets, so this is considered a worksheet. What we're going to be creating now is going to be a worksheet, and we will get to work with these elements a bit more in the future. Dashboards, we are not talking about dashboards right now. It'll come further down in this course. A dashboard is a combination of worksheets. A story can be a combination of worksheets and dashboards, and we will get to work with stories as well. That's a relatively new feature for Tableau. Analysis, it just basically specifies how you want to do your analysis on the current sheet that you're working with. We will be working with this tab a little bit in the future. Map, we'll work with this when we get to maps. Basically format, there are other ways to access formatting, and we'll be doing that in the course. Server, we won't be looking at server right now. And window, help, these are just auxiliary functions. So then what we're going to look at now is basically we won't talk about this right away because we will get to know this ribbon as we progress through the course. But right now I'd like to focus on the main working area where we will be creating a worksheet. So here the main elements are columns and rows. So most of your worksheets will be created by deciding what goes into columns, what goes into rows, and then what goes into these other elements, like what decides the color, what decides the size of your shapes, what decides what text is attached to your shapes, the level of detail. We will talk about aggregation more further in the course, and any tooltips that you want to pop by. So the easiest way to explore is probably to explore by doing. So let's drag a few things onto this worksheet. I would assume let's start perhaps with region. So we just drag it into the middle here. And so we've put one dimension in, and let's put another dimension, let's say units. And right away you can see that by dragging those two in, Tableau has decided to put region automatically into rows, and your units into, it's summed them up, so it's aggregated them by region, and it's put them into a label. And so here you can see that now you can tell right away how many units were sold in each region. So now we can just drag and drop here. So if we're not happy with having units here, we can put them into columns. And right away we have a bar chart. And now we can extend this a bit and then reduce this a bit. Now we can see by region, we can also see how many units have been sold. And you can also see that there's a tooltip popping up every time you hover over one of the bars. Now there's a very handy tool in Tableau, which is called Show Me here. So I encourage you to play around with it. I don't normally use it in my work because I already know what I want most of the time, but it gives you kind of suggestions and quick shortcuts to different things. So let's look at a pie chart, for instance. Here now we can see a pie chart instead of our bar charts. And now if we want to increase the size, it's a bit small usually, these pie charts. So first of all, we'll drag it like that. And if we're still not happy with the size, this is button over here, size. So just click that and you'll see how it grows. Well, that's a bit too much. So what does this show us? It shows us what region by color has what proportion of the total sales in units. Once again, we're just playing around now. There's no intention of for what we're doing. We're just exploring Tableau. So here you can see central, east, and west. And yeah, it's a pretty cool pie chart. But let's see what else we have. So we can do a bubble chart. Right away, Tableau puts everything in the right positions for us. As you can see, there's nothing in columns and nothing in rows. Everything's been put in here. Tableau has selected circles for us from this drop down and it's created this bubble chart. So what else? Then we can look at a tree chart, tree map. That's what it's called, tree map. So here, so it's like a bubble chart, but it's a bit different because it's got boxes instead of circles. And here, once again, the relative size of the box, the area of the box is directly correlated to the number of units sold in that region. You can just keep clicking around and you'll see different versions of the dashboard that or the worksheet that Tableau is suggesting for you. And maybe you might be happy with one of them, but we won't rely on that, and we will create our own version in the next tutorial. So before we finish up, I just wanted to show you that in this Show Me box, some of the things are grayed out, and that's because you need certain elements of data to create these. For instance, to create an area chart, you need at least one date. So 0 or more dimensions, 1 or more measures, and at least one date. Because we don't have a date in our worksheet right now, Tableau can't create an area chart for us. So if you want to add a date, you just drag a date in here. And now it's highlighted, and now we can create a area chart. But once again, we'll get to area charts, line charts, and all of these other things further down in the course. Today, we're just exploring Tableau. So I look forward to seeing you in the next tutorial, and until then, happy analyzing.